Sanbonani, Dumelangi. Welcome to another episode of The Money Revolution. This is, of course, your podcast where we empower one another to build wealth through the sharing of ideas and information about how money actually works. In today's episode, we are going to unpack one of the most misunderstood concepts in our society, and that is the difference between money and currency. We work for it, we chase after it. Some even die for it. But what if this thing that you're chasing so much actually isn't money? Let's start at first principle level by firstly defining what money is and then defining what currency is. Money, by definition, is a commodity. And to qualify as money, a specific commodity has to meet 4 strict criteria. First and foremost, it has to be a medium of exchange. In other words, both the buyer and the seller must accept it as a form of payment. Secondly, it must be a unit of account. It should allow us to measure and compare value accurately. Thirdly, it has to be a store of value. It needs to retain its worth over an extended period of time. And the fourth principle or criteria is that it has to be durable. And that's very important in that it has to resist wear and tear. And I can give an example with an apple. If for whatever reason we decide to make apple our money, it does not withstand wear and tear, because after a couple of days it will rot and therefore will not be able to last over a significant period of time. Now let's discuss currency. This is what most of us use in our day-to-day lives. We get paid in currency. We use currency to transact in stores. And one thing that I want to be specific about when I talk about currency is that we refer to it as fiat money. And fiat is just a way of saying that it is money because someone says so. It's backed by our Reserve Bank, and therefore they decide and tell us that it is money. And a representation of currency is your South African rands, your American dollars, and your Great British pounds. I also want to make this point that currency is not money. It is a representation of money. It is what governments issue, it is what our banks manage, and it is what we earn through our work. It helps us to trade, but it does not fully meet all the criteria for what money is. Our forefathers used a system of trade we refer to as the barter system. So what would happen with the system is that Umkulu would take a sack of potatoes and next door looking to exchange it for 2 chickens perhaps. Now, this system created an issue or a problem we refer to as the issue of unequal trade, whereby we would have to now decide how many potatoes are equivalent to those 2 chickens. In the later years, our people then started using shells and beads. And this was very prevalent in many of our African societies, including here in South Africa. Now, these shells and beads were firstly consistent, they were very easy to carry around, and for an extended period of time, it did work. But the issue with this is that they were not durable. They were not fire resistant, they were not war resistant, and any form of adverse weather could totally wipe them out. Now, then came gold. And this absolutely changed everything. Firstly, gold met all the pre-existing conditions of what money is. It was a medium of exchange, it was consistent, making it a very, very reliable unit of account. It didn't rust, doesn't corrode or decay, making it a very, very strong store of value. And it couldn't be destroyed by fire or by adverse weather. The Mapungube Kingdom here in South Africa to the Roman Empire out in the West all used gold as money. In today's world, we use currency. We use our rands, we use our dollars, and it's those papers in our pockets that we use in our everyday lives. We receive it as our paychecks, but here's the uncomfortable truth about currency. Currency is not durable, currency is not stable, and it also does not guarantee as a store of value over an extended period of time. Now let's bring it home a little bit. In 2018, an infamous bank known as VBS collapsed here in South Africa. Over 1.5 billion in deposits vanished due to fraud and mismanagement. Thousands of ordinary people lost what they thought was money, but it was only currency. On a global scale, take the example of Pablo Escobar, the man who was rumored to be making over $400 million a week. But because of his illegal dealings, he could not store his money in banks. So the only place that he decided or he defaulted to was to put the money in his house. He put it in the walls, he put it in the floors, he also put it in ceilings. But rats ate over $2 billion a year. That's right. Rats. 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 Paper is not durable. It is not money. It was just vulnerable currency. Even the banks themselves aren't a sure thing. If the system was to collapse, your so-called money in the banks is as safe as the promise of backing that they give you. Now, here's another way of understanding the differences between currency and money. Think about it like this. Currency is like a river. It flows sometimes at a rapid pace, sometimes at a very, very, very slow pace. Particularly during the drought years, it also dries up. Now imagine money as a dam. It holds value, it stores water, even when the river is gone. Your salary is currency, it's a river. You spend it, it's gone. So, but when you invest in assets like gold, property, you are building a money dam, and that is money. Here's the real danger. Most people think that they are building wealth because they earn currency. But real wealth comes from storing value. This, for instance, is not durable. It's non-resistant. It's not non-resistant to wear and tear. Now, take this, for instance. This is a silver coin. 10 years ago, this was worth 250 rands. Today, it's round about 750. So, this is eroding in value, whilst this is increasing significantly over that same period of time. Real wealth comes from storing value, from owning money and not currency, and also from knowing the differences between the two. Have you noticed how the price of taxi from Limpopo to Gauteng has increased significantly over the past 10 years? Have you noticed how the price of Milli has also increased significantly over a 10-year period? Have you noticed how the price of milk has also increased significantly over a 10-year period. And that is because the value of the currency is eroding. Let me leave you with this. If what you are currently working for can be eaten by rats, can be lost to inflation, or easily wiped out by a banking scandal, is it really money? Please feel free to leave us a comment below telling us about some of the items that are costing you more money today than they did perhaps a year or 3 years ago. That's all for today, Mo Africa. And remember, if it's paper, it will perish.